Welcome again to the Grasshopper for Rhinos series, the ABCs 1, 2, 3. So my name's Michael Wickerson, and I am going to continue kind of trying to get some some subscriptions, some subscribers to my webpage. I've been busy at this for uh, a month. Maybe this is into the fourth week. I've put on a lot of videos that have gone through the series, as you can see here, working in from very basic coding that my two boys have been doing at a very young age through Tinkercad and the Grasshopper. I've got a few calls, and there's a few interesting series in here I think are worth having a look at for those beginning Grasshopper. And wanting to go intermediate and even advanced into it, because I do have some real particular interests. Some videos are complicated, some are a little easier. But let's leave this, or I'll just pull this over to my other screen. I might need it. I'm going to continue along with vectors, and I've gone through the fields, I've gone through the grids tools, and I've jumped into the planes. And I think we're going to fly through the planes, and maybe I'll put this over here. We're going to fly through the planes and the points nodes, and then onto the vector nodes, and we should be through with that. And then I think things are going to get a little exciting, because we'll be applying the params math sets and vectors to curves, surfaces, meshes with intersections and transformations with a bit of display. I think I'll end that series, because the only thing to do then are plugins, and at that point I think that's particular interest involved. Anyhow, let's go into this. It's a minute and a half in, and what I like to do is go to the panel and pull down all the nodes and pull them all out, and then try and get them all activated that they're actually working. So they're a little out of order here, but they should give you an idea, and I have to draw from a few other nodes in other areas to make these things work. But basically what I do is I grab one of the nodes, construct plane. If it's in the gray and it's working, then I simply go to the origin and I extract what value is there, and I did, and it extracted this plane to start. And then you can always internalize that again, in a sense of going back to origin and internalizing, that's a working operating plane. But I'm going to leave this plugged in there just so I see it working. And then deconstruct planes seem to be the node to follow construct plane, and then what comes back out of it. And not only do you get the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, which you can take a look through the param viewer, or you can take a look through in a panel. It'll tell you exactly what you have, and there's the data coming out to define the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. And this is all the bare bone essentials, fundamentals for you to start building things. So you're not dependent on going to all these planes that people kind of default to. Those are the world planes. You can take this in any direction with any vectors and the things we've covered and will continue to cover. Basically, then I've grabbed a line and I've extracted, gone in here, made two lines, and there's the line I started with, another line that I drew just in Rhino window by drawing something like this, and then of course taking that, and if I decided to clear these values and take this value and set one line to that, just take a second. Oh, sorry, I have to set a new line. I'll leave that command with a right click, get rid of that line. Yeah, sometimes it lets you select lines you've already made, and then other times it asks you to make new ones. But that line and that line should build a plane, and there it is. And that references those two. And of course, since I changed that, I should internalize it, which I think I did. Yeah, internalize that data, and now it's in there. For me, if I want to even get rid of that one, and then this file is not dependent on a Grasshopper file, so I can actually go into it anytime I want. The line point's pretty simple. That line was drawn, that point was referenced to it. Go back in. I've had to create these in order for these to actually function, because when you're in the vectors node and you go into, say I go into that 3-point line, construct plane, say I went into 3-point plane, play a 3-point, it's going to come up orange saying what it's missing data. So obviously it depends on that point I drew, that point I drew, and that point I drew, which is off the screen. No, it's that one, that one, that one, and that one, and that plane is built, and you have to just kind of angle around till you see it. Wonderful way to grab hold of geometries and not be dependent upon perpendicular or horizontal frames on geometries. You build it yourself from your own vectors in so many different ways. And points. Point normal I use all the time. You just grab an origin. I thought this was a nice sample that, yes, you could grab an origin where sometimes it's asking for a base plane, but it'll take a point, just like this one will. It'll take that point and then produce that plane. Plane fit's kind of cool because it'll fit it to a series of points. Just drop a whole bunch, and then boom, the plane fits right into there. If I want to do a plane offset, you can see I have a little bit of power to move that plane up and off. You can hold down shift and see both of them at once if you want, and get a sense of that. And then the base plane was nice because I could take that plane as a base, and once again I could take one of these points as the base and plug it in there, and it still would function just the same. And then I have an origin point of where that actually is. Aligning planes, another thing, if you just watch a little subtlety here, I don't know if there's any adjust because I hadn't had an angle shifted, so it just realigned all of those planes to one another. Let's see if I play with this one. The master value here isn't set to too complex a vector, so it's not really doing anything different from the original plane to align the plane. And you can align planes, but you can also align plane. So let's take a look in here at this one and zoom in a little quick. And I thought there was a bit of geometry shift on here, but I could be wrong. Direction. Oh, that's because I'm off. Okay. Here's my, yeah, there it is. There's my adjust plane, which comes out of this data, comes off of this one. And I've actually adjusted it to its normal to change its view to this side. Maybe I should make this a little bigger so this will prove how these planes differ a little bit. There's my 3-point plane that I made. There's my adjusting my plane to a normal, which is set at 001, which of course can change from any of those other planes I had. And then you can watch this shift a little bit as I go to aligning that plane. And you can do the same for aligning the planes. So when I find where this one was coming from as a series of points, I think this one, there it is. The planes coming out of that. I thought there were several. I thought I had several. Yes, and if I did go in there and select it, it should have adjusted slightly, but I guess it's not happening. Similar to this one. Apologize for having so many planes on here. It's just trying to wrap your head around it. Then I take that one and I do a flip plane, which is actually something that's pretty subtle what just happened there. So you've got your green and you've got your RGB kind of going, but you've got your green and red, and that's basically just a flipping of those two, a reverse. And you can go into this is a Boolean to toggle that on and off if you want. You would just bring in something like an input toggle, Boolean toggle, and you have some quick access to what you want to do. See, that's just, or you could use a button tool or something like that. And then that plane, this is a nice plane coordinates just to see from that plane what are the coordinates. You can pull that back out of whatever you want. A nice tool for if you think about deconstructing the plane and getting this data out from deconstructing the plane, you can go very specifically and pull out the actual coordinates. And I guess I could see those in a panel if I wanted to see those. So there's my x at -21, there's my -12 on my y, and 0 on my z. So maybe I'll leave that in there. Kind of a cool tool, closest point. If I go here and we consider that plane and this point, well, what's the closest point to that plane? Well, it's definitely that point. I mean, there's not much chance in having anything different, but if I grab this item and this item, and then I start to play, it's definitely going to be, it would have to be a closest point to, if I made it more complex with more points, obviously. So it's pretty simple, plane closest point tool. And then the last one is just a rotate plane that I come in here, and like I said, I like to use radians and pies that I can actually go from 0 to 2 and have a play off of that angle. And of course that angle is set right now for that to rotate in plane, but you'd have to get into rotating 3D if you want to do other things to it. So even though it's kind of cool that each of these things has its own kind of specific node, you can jump in any one of these nodes, get it working. Start once again with this data, grab it, group it, go into the colors, say, give it a nice pleasant finish color, and say, okay, there's something to start with. Now I'm 8.5 minutes in, 9 minutes in. Why would I go to a blank slate and start kind of from scratch, just going up here and pulling down ones? Why don't I start with everything working and think what that geometry does as I go through? And right now I'm just going to deactivate it because there's no, disable it because there's no point. And then we're going to go a little farther in past that, and we're going to go into the application of the next page, which I have ready, and I'm going to use another video to get through that, which is basically back into the vector tools, grabbing all the points, making sure everything's working. So what I could do is, I think I've got everything working right now. So if I hit enable, there shouldn't be anything on here that's not working. And I think if I went to preview on, you'll start to see what is being generated from that script and examples at looking at everything. You get kind of these cool forms. So in doing so, I might take a look at this, even though I've got it here. I'm going to cut and paste it, bring it over here, And I'm going to ungroup it while I'm working on things in a copy. It's just a technique I have. And now I'm going to go into each one of these on the next one to see what was going on. Here's one that was dependent on a point. So if I'm looking at interpolating a bunch of points, I'm obviously going to have to find a series and then bring them in and get this one running as a list item. I guess I was starting to build some geometry, a polar array or cylinder down here. Not really sure what I was doing, but we'll definitely figure it out. All right. Thanks for watching.